Hello, I am Peter Okwocha. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. As the death toll in China rises above 80, health authorities across Africa are increasing vigilance for signs of the new coronavirus. We take a look at the man who's been selected by the Burundian ruling party as their presidential candidate. Also on the program, the world remembers a legend. Tributes for the legendary basketball player Kobe Bryant, who died in a helicopter crash alongside his daughter and 7 others.
He burns so competitively hot and the desire to win. He brought it each and every night.
Vibrant colors and shocking components. We take a closer look at the thriving art scene in Rwanda. And in sports, Arsenal travel to Bournemouth for the 4th round of the FA Cup, but will have to do it without their captain, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Thanks for joining us here on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. As the number of those infected by the coronavirus in China continues to rise, health authorities across Africa are increasing vigilance for signs of it on the continent. Kenya has cautioned its citizens against all but necessary travel to China. It comes as officials in Ivory Coast are dealing with a suspected case, an unnamed student who returned to the West African country from Beijing on Saturday and is undergoing further tests for showing symptoms. The virus, which first emerged in the Chinese city of Wuhan, has spread to over 2,000 people and killed over 80 more. I'm now joined by Dr. Yasin Gardo, who is from Somalia and is a doctor based in Wuhan. Doctor, can you just first start off by telling me what the situation is in Wuhan?
Thank you for having me. The situation here in Wuhan is a bit concerning, and people here are worried about this kind of virus. So the hospitals here are full, almost full, I can say. So the situation here is getting worse day by day.
And I understand that the city is now basically cut off from the rest of the country. Are people still about to go about their daily business as long as they don't leave the city?
No one is going outside now. Everyone is inside their home or their place. So the city, as you said before, is completely locked up. There is no metro, there is no subway, there is no bus, and and you can't go anywhere. If you go in the streets, the roads are almost empty, and majority of supermarkets here are closed. So there is no movement around the city now.
Now, I know that you are studying essentially in Wuhan for a master's degree in medicine, but you're also practicing as a doctor there. Tell us some of the kind of cases that you are seeing there in the hospitals.
For me, I was not an infectious disease expert or doctor, but I was going to the hospital since last Wednesday. So there were so many cases of fever who was coming to our hospital. But at that time, they were not alarming us like it is now. So now they designated to, like different kind of hospitals, like to deal with this kind of situation now.
And just if you would, very briefly, tell us, is there a large African community where you are?
Of course. Here in Wuhan, Chinese, they call like student city. So there are so many universities here. So there is large African community here, and maybe thousands of Africans live here.
Okay, Dr. Yasin Gardo, a Somali doctor based in Wuhan. Thank you very much for your time. Let's join the BBC's health correspondent, Rhoda Odhiambo, who joins me from Nairobi now. Rhoda, I understand that the government in Kenya is warning people against anything but necessary travel to China. What's the situation like there, and what exactly are the government doing to protect people who come in from China?
So a few hours ago, journalists received a statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs where the government said that it has cautioned Kenyans against traveling to China, where if you only against all but necessary travel to China. So what other measures that the government has put in place is ensuring that all flights that are coming from China, all passengers are screened, and those that seem to show symptoms that are similar to the coronavirus are isolated and are tested.
Now, we've just heard from that Somali doctor who's based in Wuhan, and he confirms that there are lots of African students there. We know that the French and some other European countries are saying that they will send planes to go and bring their citizens back. Are there such plans in places like Kenya and Ethiopia, which is another major traveling hub to China for Africans?
So no such plans have been made public, but what Kenya and Ethiopia and many other African countries are doing that have students that have their citizens in China, they're keeping close contact with them, and they've also asked those who have not identified or registered at the nearby embassies to do so, so that they're able to know the number of citizens that are in China and how best they can be able to communicate with them.
I know this is not just one-way traffic as Africans leave for China. There are lots of Chinese workers coming back to Africa after their New Year celebrations. Will they also be subject to these tests at the port of entry in Kenya?
Yes, the government has made it clear, not only in Kenya, but in all African countries, that anybody who is coming from China, that they'll all be screened to see whether they have similar symptoms. And also one of the key issues that they would like to know is also the history of travel. So other than looking at the symptoms, which include if you have a running nose, if you're running out of breath, if you have a high fever, the travelers should also be able to say the origin or where they traveled from. Okay. And this will be able to also ascertain and help in identifying if at all they are carrying the virus or not.
Okay, Mercy Odembo there from Nairobi. Thank you very much. Fearless, genius, leader, legend. Just some of the words that have been echoing across the world over the past few hours since the news of Kobe Bryant's death broke. He was in a helicopter with his 13-year-old daughter Gianna and 7 others. Sangeeta Miska reports.
A sporting legend, an American cultural icon. The death of Kobe Bryant, at the age of just 41, has shaken America and basketball fans world over. One of the greatest basketball players of all time, tributes have poured in for Kobe Bryant from those who set the records he'd set out to break.
He inspired a whole generation of young athletes. He was one of the first ones to leave high school and come into the NBA and do so well.
Gets to the rim, reverse!
Kobe Bryant's accomplishments are legendary. 5 NBA championships, the 2008 Most Valuable Player, and 2 Olympic gold medals. He spent his entire 20-year career at the Los Angeles Lakers before retiring 4 years ago.
He burns so competitively hot, and the desire to win. He brought it each and every night on both ends of the floor. I mean, not too many guys can say that throughout NBA history.
We're going to see both teams do what we've seen all day long here, Quinn.
At NBA games across America yesterday, teams paid tribute by stopping play for 24 seconds, the number of Kobe Bryant's jersey.
Because that was his number.
As Bryant's former team, the LA Lakers, returned by plane from a match in Philadelphia, its current superstar player, LeBron James, was visibly overcome. It was on a remote hillside in California that the helicopter carrying Kobe Bryant crashed. What brought it down is unknown. With him was his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, who he'd been coaching to play in a game at a sports academy he'd co-founded. Kobe Bryant died as final preparations were being made for last night's Grammy Awards at LA Staples Center, also home of the LA Lakers. As the show got underway, Alicia Keys dedicated the night to Kobe Bryant.
And we're literally standing here, heartbroken, in the house that Kobe Bryant built.
Today, America mourns Kobe Bryant, a supreme athlete, a role model, an American hero. Sangeeta Maiska, BBC News.
I'm now joined by Cynthia Mumbo, who is a sports administrator and a basketball aficionado. And off air, you were telling me that you just can't believe that this has happened and how surreal it is. What made Kobe Bryant so special to you?
I grew up literally watching Kobe. I mean, I played basketball for all my life, if I could say. And we used to watch NBA action. That was the only thing available, and that just kind of pushed us so hard into basketball. The Mamba mentality beyond just him being an athlete for me was a real driving force.
And I remember him being asked a few years into his career if he was the next Michael Jordan, who in fact was another basketball great, and he said, I don't want to be Michael Jordan, I want to be Kobe Bryant. You know, why did he stand out so much?
Because he was himself. He understood his individual power, and he wasn't trying to be anybody. He was Kobe. He was the Mamba, the Black Mamba. I mean, I think a lot about his, and I can't believe I'm saying I think about, you know, like in past tense. It's so surreal. I think about his, you know, whenever he would go for training, he would be there 2 hours before everybody else. He would be there an hour after everybody else has gone. He would be there to support, you know, everybody else in the team. He took winning, you know, the winning mentality to the team that he played in, and he wanted everyone to own that. He was so infectious with that.
A few years ago, when he played his final game for the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, I think he scored 60 points in that match. And people were like, this guy should not be retiring at this point in his career. He had a relationship with Africa because Africans love the NBA.
Right.
How did they see Kobe Bryant? How will they remember him?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is the demographics. 70% of Africa is under the age of 35. So, you know, I turned 38 3 days ago. And so a lot of us are about that age and under. And we related with Kobe. A lot of people from Africa connect with him as our age mate. Like, you know, this is a guy we grew up with. There was Michael Jordan right ahead of him. But Kobe, for many of us, was very, you know, like somebody we could connect with because he was just like me. He was my age, you know. He was my age mate. And a lot of Africa is looking and saying, you know, this guy was it. There's an age group that follows LeBron, but there was a very, very big age group that followed Kobe. So it was Michael Jordan, Kobe, and then LeBron.
Thank you very much for your time, Cynthia. And, you know, what can I say? We're really sorry, but thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Today marks the 75th year since the liberation of Auschwitz. Survivors of the Nazi death camp have returned there to lay wreaths in memory of the dead. The Nazis murdered more than 1 million people at Auschwitz, most of them Jews. A Portuguese hacker claims he's the one who leaked documents showing how Africa's richest woman, Isabel dos Santos, made her fortune. Rui Pinto, author of the Football Leaks website, says he exposed the files which alleged the daughter of a former president of Angola enriched herself through corruption. Ms. dos Santos denies the allegations. This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwoche. Still to come on the programme, in tennis, we preview Ons Jabeur's quarterfinals tie at the Australian Open. Mimi will have all the details in the sports. I'm Peter Okwoche. The top story this hour. As the death toll in China rises above 80, health authorities across Africa are increasing vigilance for any signs of the new coronavirus. In Burundi, the governing party has chosen its Secretary General Evariste Ndayishimiye as its candidate for this year's presidential election. Current President Pierre Nkurunziza has promised not to run again. Burundi was thrown into turmoil when he decided to run for a third term in 2015. It's the strongest indication yet that the incumbent, Mr. Nkurunziza, is finally prepared to step down. So who is Mr. Ndayishimiye? The BBC's Victoria Uwahunda reports.
This is the moment Major General Evariste Ndayishimiye was announced as the candidate for Burundi's ruling party for the upcoming elections in May. The 52-year-old has been the General Secretary of CNDD-FDD party since 2016 and is among the most influential political figures in Burundi. His appointment as the presidential candidate for the ruling party comes as President Pierre Nkurunziza, who has been in power since 2005, announced that he will not seek a new term. Almost 4 years ago, Burundi was thrown into turmoil when President Nkurunziza decided to run for a third term. And just last week, Burundi's MPs proposed to grant President Nkurunziza the title of Supreme Leader. The lawmakers also voted to give outgoing presidents $500,000, a luxury villa, and a lifetime salary. Mr. Ndayishimiye is a close ally of President Nkurunziza. The two men fought together in the 90s in the rebel group during the civil war. Mr. Ndayishimiye became Minister of Interior until 2007, when he was appointed military advisor to the president. Whether the appointment of Major General Evariste Ndayishimiye brings calm and optimism to the country remains to be seen, and many in and outside of Burundi will be looking at the May election with keen interest. Victoria Wonghunda, BBC News.
A key figure of the 2011 Arab Spring, the Tunisian activist and blogger Lina Ben Mehni, has died after suffering for years from a chronic illness. The 36-year-old made her last post on her site, A Tunisian Girl, on Sunday. For several years in the blog, she documented the failings of the regime of President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. He lost power in 2011, setting off the Arab Spring. You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sports. And Mimi, more on Kobe?
Unfortunately, yes, a very sad start to sport. More on the tragic story of NBA legend Kobe Bryant's death alongside his daughter and 7 others. In Nigeria, basketball fans have been reacting to the news and what his legacy will be on the continent.
After his retirement, what he gave back to the black community in general. You know, I wish he was Nigerian, so would have felt that generosity, but he did a lot for the black community in America. We look up to him.
Especially we women, we face a lot of challenges playing basketball. It's not even only in basketball. As a female athlete, we face a lot of challenges. She can't play, they are just females, you can beat them, she can't bounce. But Kobe stood with female, he stood with women's basketball. He made people see that women's basketball is not just about being physical, it's about you having IQ, it's about you playing with your knowledge. It's about you doing so many things on court and off court.
He, to me, will always be the best player in NBA history. I watched a lot of his games. I watched when he won his championships without Shaq. I saw him when he scored 81 points in a game. Kobe really is my role model. He's, well, the reason I started playing basketball.
All right, moving on to football. Arsenal are traveling today to Bournemouth in the 4th round of the FA Cup. It will be the first FA Cup meeting between both sides. They will have to do without their captain, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, as he is still suspended, but they will have available the Ivory Coast international Nicolas Pepe. Arsenal have won 8 of their previous 11 matches against Bournemouth in all competitions, sharing a 1-1 draw in the most recent meeting in the Premier League in December. Bournemouth have only reached the FA Cup 5th round on 4 previous occasions. To tennis, Ons Jabeur has been making headlines after becoming the first Arab woman to make it to a Grand Slam singles quarterfinal. All eyes will be on the 25-year-old when she takes on American Sophia Kenin on Tuesday in the Australian Open in Melbourne. The 78th ranked Jabeur will face 14-seed Kenin in the last 8 after she beat 15-year-old Coco Gauff. Kenin, though, is a familiar opponent for her.
I mean, it's going to be a good matchup, I hope. I've played her in Mallorca last year, and I mean, I know her game pretty well, but she's playing well. And it was funny after the match, like, we're both biking next to each other, and she's like, "Good job." I'm like, "You too." And then she's like, it was just funny. It was like a funny moment. And she's like, "Are you feeling tired?" I'm like, No, I'm good. So she's like, "Yeah, me too." I'm like, "Okay, I'll see you whenever today's Tuesday. See you on Tuesday then."
And South Africa's cricketers have lost the fourth and final test in Johannesburg to England by 191 runs, losing the series 3-1. South Africa, chasing an unlikely 466 to win, were bowled out for 274 after a late batting collapse. It was South Africa's 8 test loss in their last 9 matches, the worst run for 108 years. It also marked the final test appearance of South Africa's Vernon Philander, who came out to bat despite nursing a torn hamstring. And Nigeria's cricketers have lost their latest match at the Under-19 World Cup in South Africa. Nigeria debutants at a Cricket World Cup are bidding for some of the minor places, having lost their group games. They fell by a resounding 233 runs to Sri Lanka in Potchefstroom. That's all the sport, Peter.
Many thanks, Mimi. Thank you very much. Now, Rwanda's economy is thriving, growing by an annual average of more than 7% over the past 2 decades. That business confidence has led in turn to a developing art market, with Rwandan artists finding new interest in their work, both traditional and contemporary. And now international buyers are beginning to notice and invest in Rwanda's creative sector. Maggie Butesi reports from Kigali.
Visual art is everywhere in Rwanda. You see its presence in the streets, in business premises, and also in the home. This, in turn, is leading to new creative and business opportunities for Rwandans as artists, distributors, and gallery owners. This is one of the most popular visual art in Rwanda, dating back to the 18th century. The locals call it imigongo, and it is made using cow dung.
Well, at the beginning, we built some sort of catalog to guide us, but because the art is based on geometry and shape and color and modeling, it gives a lot of room for artists to change out things.
How much money does one piece of imigongo cost?
We are ranging from like $2 to $50. And sometimes we get customized designs that are bigger, that could go maybe for $200.
The demand for local art is booming. It's led to an increase in the number of galleries and exhibition events. In fact, in 2018, the first contemporary art museum opened in Kigali to showcase Rwandan artists. Bespoke pieces retail for up to $50,000 US. Back in 2012, Emmanuel and Innocent decided to jump into the then uncharted waters of selling Rwandan art to international buyers.
The piece in itself is called Living Treasure. So Living Treasure, I used motherboards that represents the growing tech scene in the country. I used the gorilla, and then if you see how green it is, actually shows how we are also devoted for conservation.
Global interest in African art has been growing steadily in recent years. And with international buyers now looking at Rwanda's vibrant art scene, it's primed to take its place in this multi-million-dollar business. Maggie Motesi, BBC News, Kigali.
Now, a team of volunteer veterinarians is in Khartoum to provide emergency food and medical help to starving lions at a zoo in the city. Pictures of the emaciated lions at the El Korashi Family Park Zoo emerged online last week, causing huge public outcry. But now the team, led by animal welfare organization Four Paws, says it has received permission to enter the country and provide the animals with the much needed help. Now, don't forget, you could get in touch with me and some of the team on social media. I'm at Okwoche. But for now, that's it from Focus in Africa, from me, Peter Okwoche, and the rest of the team. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. See you very soon. Bye.